Yeah, he's good. He's good.
And any updates on Eck?
Yeah, he's not going tonight. I don't think we're very far off. It might. I don't know that it's Anaheim at home, but we're feeling fairly confident right now. He plays on the road trip. Hopefully, the first game of the road trip, but he's not far off.
Speaking of confident, obviously, Red Wings have been playing well here
Yeah.
lately. Just what's the key to kind of facing confidence like that and maybe slowing them down?
Well, I think their strength is I think Todd's done a really good job of almost harnessing him a little bit to a defensive game. I think their expected goal since he's taken over is #1 in the league at even strength against. So they've got some. They're built a little bit, in some ways like us. They got some skilled, some high-end guys up front that can make plays, but they've certainly collapsed heavier on their own end, put a way bigger attention to detail on defense, and they've had good success because of it.
Do you think Detroit is a team that if they could be a playoff team this year?
Yeah, for sure. I feel that way about almost all of them. I mean, I'm going to include Buffalo in that as well. They just had a tough start, and now they're getting their game in order. It is going to be absolutely. Well, you know what, George? It's going to be really interesting, actually, because sometimes we're still. What do you got? 55 points. You're not making the playoffs on 55 points. There's lots of work to do. But you get toward the end of the season, and if you're a playoff team, sometimes the most dangerous teams are the teams that are out of the playoffs. And it's not because you take them lightly. They've kind of had a death of their season somewhere 2 months before, and they go on these great runs at the end of the year, and they get close, and they say they're right there, but they're playing loose, they're playing fast, the pressure's off them. So you get into these games now, and with all of those teams, they're playing like a playoff. So the intensity is there. But there's not a lot of BS in their game, right? It matters. That North Pass matters because if the turnovers disappear, which I think in some ways is easier and better to play. It's going to be a tight hockey game tonight. Both teams are going to grind hard defensively, and there shouldn't be a lot of free flow up and down the ice.
And you have a lot of games against the Atlantic, right?
Yeah.
To the left, you've got that one road trip. But
yeah,
all your games are divisional.
And they're all heavy and hard and very, very close, which is the game that we want to get into, the 1-1, 2-1 game, the tight game, the close game. We didn't play a lot of them early in the year. We either got on a run on a team and scored an awful lot, or I just felt we opened our game up when we got down. And now in the last little while, we're getting into a lot of these 1-1 games. We lost we lost to Carolina 1-1 in the third. We lost to Colorado 1-1, but I was all right with that. We had righted our game in Carolina. And with the 2 defensemen out in Colorado, we were good. So we like these tight games. It's so important for you to develop the mentality of playing tight game hockey.
Coach, what do you know about Jesper Boquist now that maybe you didn't know about him at the beginning of the season?
The only thing I would say is you never know how a player will fit or ascend, but that's the player that we signed. Like in our mind, we noticed him in Jersey, and then we noticed him in Boston. He was a good player against us. He can make plays. He's quick. He's physical, and he's on the puck, and that's pretty much the definition of what we're trying to do. We felt that he would fit very well here. I didn't know that he would be as versatile as he is. He's played games at center ice. He's played games on left wing. It's very easy for him to slide all over. But the player, this is what we had hoped for, and he looks like wherever I play him, he plays well.
If I could ask a big picture of the season question. You guys seem to be handling success pretty well the last 2 years. What's been the most difficult thing of dealing with success?
Well, each year has been completely different, the set of challenges that come with it. This year is different than last year. Last year, kind of very focused group. We actually had some success early in the year. At this point last year, we're in the middle of a 9-game winning streak. And then we lost 9 of 12 in March, kind of. We had, I think, got to first place in the entire league and still had 6 weeks of hockey before the playoffs. The biggest challenge is staying present, staying in the day, the moment, because you're constantly brought back to the past, and we'll take that. It was a wonderful past last year, so you're constantly reminded of that. And then we believe we're going to work hard and play hard, and we're going to get to the playoffs, but that's still 35 games ahead of us. So just the challenge is staying in the moment, and you're pulled out of it quite a bit by your past.
How do you think everybody's dealing with that staying in the moment?
I think very well. I'm pleased with where we're at. I'm not content or comfortable with our game. That Jersey game was a really good sign on back-to-back nights to play. All of the things that were done in that game were hard. stopping and starting. There wasn't any looping in our game. There wasn't any spread in our game. There wasn't any casualness with the puck in our game. And that's mentally difficult to do, especially on back-to-back. I was very pleased to see that.
Not to try to bring up the past, but Tarasenko on the other side.
Yeah.
What did he mean for you guys during that run?
He was a great mentor. Vladdy loves the game. He likes to talk hockey. He's completely immersed in it. And we moved him around a bunch of different places, and then he found his home with Lusterine and Lundell, and just constantly on the bench talking about plays. It's great for those two guys to have a veteran player who's really, really high hockey IQ engage them in the game. And then he scored some pretty big goals for us. We won in each series.
And he was a guy who won the cup. How important was that? I mean, it seems like every time somebody tells a story about
Yeah.
the cup, it was like Tarasenko was involved, like him telling me stories like it's like you. It's
Right.
Get better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think I'll relate it back to there is a piece of experience that you get from winning the last game. And you can share that with the people around you, having a guy that's been there. It was great for those two young players. And he fit in with the room. I mean, he's got countrymen with Kulikov and Bobrovsky. He just fit right in our room.
And real quick, I know it's not fantasy hockey, but people have been wanting to see Barkov with Kachuk and Reinhardt for a long time. What was the decision to move Reinhardt to the left, and are you going to continue that?
No, Chucky played on the left. They just, it doesn't matter because the two of them are so bright. They just get to the right spots and they end up looking like they're playing the offside. We did it earlier in the year. More as a default, I wanted to split the lineup, and I wanted to have, Verhaeghe, Bennett, and Kachuk on a different line just to give them a different on-ice experience, right? Sometimes you get into a rut of the game is played in a certain style, and it is with the two players you're playing with, and sometimes, that line has been dominant for us for 2 years. And I'm not married to it, but we'll probably come back to it at some point. But they all three needed just some time with different people. Matthew had a pretty good run there on the short look at it. I like to have most of the depth spread out, so I like when Matthew and Barkey are on different lines. The advantage for the other team is they're going to get their 1-2 out against those guys almost all night, right? They get the top pairing D gets to play against them, and that's an easier match for the opposing coach. But it's still three really good players you have to face, and it also means that the other two lines aren't going to face 1-2 very often. So I like the way we played. If we play that hard, I'll leave it. It can stay like that as long as the other players are making improvements and look good. We can leave it.
So you'll start tonight?
Yes.
Coach, speaking of Kachuk, we always talk about his emotional
Mhm.
understanding of the game. How unique is it for a player to have that skill set where they understand the balance of kind of when to unleash that emotion?
Yeah.
And maybe when it's time to reel it back in a little bit?
You usually don't see it on players that young. He's still a young man. And usually it takes years before you can figure out, okay, we need to hit. Okay, this game's got to change a little bit. Or that guy's struggling. Or a guy on your own bench is struggling. He's wired into all that probably from a lifetime in hockey around his dad in the NHL. He just has a great sense of that for the game. And, he threw two solid hits in that game. One very early, drew a penalty on the hit, and then one again in the second. And that kind of wired the bench. It also wired the game. We operate better in that energy level, that kind of game. If it's a banger, we're in good shape. So he encourages that at times and draws our team into it.
Last one for me. You guys have had success in the shootout this season. Is there an art to the shootout?
Yeah, I have no
or is
idea.
it really-
It's a bunch of, I wouldn't have got, I never crossed the blue line, so I have no idea what it's like to be that close to the goalie with the puck. There's a skill and there's an ability to read goalies, right? Those hands guys, they watch the video of it before. They've got their 2 or 3 moves and they're looking for a spot. That's a high-end skill.
Obviously, it doesn't happen a lot. How hyped does Callie get for those moments? Because obviously, that's kind of his time to shine.
Well, he does quite a bit of prep work on it. So they go into the shootouts. We have loops on tendencies with the goalies, and I think he's just, I don't know that it's the shooter he's more excited about, but our goalie, he pays pretty close attention to that.
And Spencer's won the last two.
Been good. Spencer's been really good. Yeah, I thought that was a fairly even game through 2 in Jersey, and then probably I didn't like the first 10 or 15 minutes. I thought we were rolling, but he had to make 2 or 3 really big saves in the last 5 when that push came. Yeah, he's been good. Correct.
Thanks so
Okay,
much,
everybody.
guys. Thank you.